Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dalingua English Podcast. I'm Albert, and today I'm with my friend and colleague Jaderson. We're tackling a topic many language learners face: language learning anxiety.
Hi, Albert. Hi, awesome people. Today's topic is interesting because, as you know, anxiety is a common problem that can affect everyone. It's that feeling of worry, nervousness, or fear about something uncertain or stressful. When learning a new language, it can feel even more overwhelming.
Exactly, Jaderson. Many learners experience anxiety, but the good news is that there are ways to overcome it. We're here to help our listeners understand and manage those fears. So, let's start with the basics. What are some common anxieties people have when learning a language?
Well, Albert, one of the biggest fears is making mistakes. Many learners worry they'll sound silly or that others will judge them.
That's a great point. And the fear of not understanding native speakers is another major issue. You listen, and it feels like they're speaking too fast or using words you don't know. It can feel discouraging.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the fear of speaking in front of others. Some people feel paralyzed when they have to speak in class, in a meeting, or even in casual conversations.
So true. But the good news is that we can all work through these anxieties. Let's talk about some practical ways to deal with them. Jaderson, what's your first tip?
My first tip is to remember that making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. The important thing is to learn from them.
Yes. And try to change your mindset. Instead of thinking, oh, I made a mistake, think, I learned something new today. Every mistake is a step closer to fluency.
That's a great way to look at it, Albert. Another tip is to start small. Practice speaking in low pressure situations like talking to yourself in the mirror or practicing with a friend who is also learning.
And finding a language exchange partner can be a great idea also. Talking to someone who is also learning can be less intimidating. Plus, don't be afraid to tell them you're feeling a bit nervous. Most people will be understanding.
Great point. Open communication can really help. Another tip is to focus on communication, not perfection.
What do you mean by that, Jaderson?
Well, sometimes we're so worried about saying everything perfectly that we don't say anything at all. The goal of language is to communicate. Even if you make a small mistake, as long as the other person understands you, that's a success.
I completely agree. I remember once I wanted to say, I am hungry, but I accidentally said something that sounded like I am angry. My friend laughed, but they still understood me. It wasn't perfect, but we communicated.
That's a great example. Now, let's talk about listening anxiety. Many learners feel overwhelmed when listening to native speakers. What can they do about it?
Well, one thing that helps is slowing down the audio or video. Many apps and websites have this option. Also, using subtitles can be very helpful, especially when you're just starting out.
And don't stress about understanding every single word. Focus on the main idea instead. Um, you can also listen to material that matches your level.
Exactly, and try listening to different accents. This will help you get used to the variety of ways people speak.
Good point. And here's another tip, Albert. Don't compare your listening skills to native speakers. Oh my gosh, they've been speaking the language their whole lives. It's impossible. You can compare with them. That's like comparing a beginner runner to an Olympic athlete.
That's a fantastic analogy, my friend. Be patient with yourself. Your listening skills will improve over time with practice. Another tip: listen to things you actually enjoy.
That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Definitely. If you love music, listen to songs in your target language. If you enjoy cooking, find a cooking podcast. When you're interested in the topic, you'll stay motivated, even if it's challenging.
I agree. I find it much easier to understand a song I like, even if it has difficult words. The melody and my interest help me focus.
And remember, it's okay to ask people to repeat themselves or to speak more slowly. Just say, "Could you please repeat that?" Or "Could you speak a little slower?"
Exactly. Don't feel embarrassed to ask for clarification. Most people are happy to help. You can also say, could you explain that word? Or what does that mean?
That's a great point. Now, let's talk about confidence in speaking. Many learners struggle with this. What can they do to feel more comfortable speaking in front of others?
Start with short, simple sentences. Don't try to say complicated things. I remember one of my high school students, what is his name? Carlos, used to feel anxious whenever he had to speak in class. His mind went blank, his hands got sweaty, and he was afraid of making mistakes.
Oh my god, that sounds tough. What did you do to help him?
I told him to take a deep breath and reminded him that mistakes are part of learning. He started speaking slowly, made a few errors, but over time he practiced more and gained confidence. Eventually, he realized his fear was bigger in his head than in reality.
Wow, that's a great example, Jaderson. Practicing speaking aloud, even when you're alone, can really help.
Absolutely. And when you're practicing alone, don't be afraid to make funny faces or exaggerate sounds. It actually helps with pronunciation.
That's a fun tip. Here's another one. Prepare some simple phrases for common situations. If you know you'll be in a situation where you need to speak, prepare some useful phrases in advance.
Great idea. If you're going to a restaurant, practice phrases like, can I have the menu, please? If you're meeting someone new, prepare introductions like, nice to meet you. And what do you do?
It makes a big difference. The more prepared you feel, the less anxious you'll be. Also, don't compare yourself to others. Learning a language isn't a competition.
Absolutely. And remember to celebrate small victories. Did you successfully order food in the new language? That's a win. Do you understand part of a conversation? Celebrate it.
That's such an important reminder. Learning a language is a journey. It takes time and effort, so be patient with yourself.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, Albert. We hope these tips help you overcome your language learning anxiety.
Remember, you're not alone. Everyone feels anxious sometimes. And don't let fear stop you from reaching your goals.
Before we go, Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Share your experiences in the comments.
Join us for our next episode where we'll talk about how to create a personalized language learning plan. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you for listening to Dalingua English Podcast.
See you next time, awesome people.
Remember, every mistake is a step forward. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing.